Are you ready to make the cutest little DIY Yarn People ornaments? You need a little bit of yarn, tiny piece of felt, a wooden spool, a wooden bobbin, and then maybe a little piece of yarn or rickrack to decorate the body of your yarn person. Takes about 15 or 20 minutes. Let's get started. For our first yarn person, we need only one kind of yarn, just normal thin yarn. We'll need wooden spools, wooden beads, a needle that is thick enough for the yarn to go through the eye of the needle, a little scrap of felt, a ruler, scissors, and if you want to add some trim to the yarn person at the end, you can decide about that. So he will look a little bit like this guy, but we're going to make it this time with some more brightly colored yarn. So I have cotton yarn that is variegated. It's got all sorts of different colors, so this one's going to turn out pretty fun. I have actual real wooden yarn spools, thread spools. So these are old. You can buy new ones at the craft store. This is just what I happen to have. You'll see the old ones are all different sizes and shapes. So just pick out what works for you. And then the wooden bead, there are different sizes, so you can get something smaller, but it has a hole that's big enough for the yarn to go through. So I'm going to pick out one spool and one bead, set those to the side, and the first thing I'm going to do is make my yarn arms and legs. So with this thinner yarn, we're going to triple up our braid. So I'm going to cut 9 strands that are 12 inches long. So let me do that. So I have 9 strands that are all 12 inches long. I'm going to gather them together and make a knot on one end. So with all of them together, I'm going to make a knot. I'm going to push my knot as close as I can get it to those ends. Make sure that it's nice and tight and strong so that it's going to stay put. Okay, now that we have it knotted, we're going to split 3 strands, 3 strands, and 3 strands, and then just I want to get not quite all the way to the other end, and then I'm going to make another knot down here. So again, I'm going to pull that knot as close as I can get it to the end while making sure that it's nice and tight and it's going to stay put. All right, there we go. Now I'm going to trim. You trim it as close as you want. These are going to be our legs for our little yarn person. So now we'll make the arms. Same thing, we're going to need 9 strands. These are going to be 9 inches long, so a little bit shorter. I've got my 9 strands. I'm going to gather the ends up, tie a knot, and then I'll make my braid. Got your knot nice and secure, you can trim both ends. Alright, so we have our arms and our legs, we've got our head, we've got our body. We're going to make our yarn person a little hat. So you just need a scrap of felt. You can use either your wooden spool to trace a circle around to cut your circle for your hat, or another handy trick is a quarter is just the right size. So I'm going to cut a little piece of scrap off, and I'm just going to trim right around my quarter. Alright, your circle doesn't need to be perfect, but if there's any little edges you want to smooth out, don't make it perfect, but you can smooth out between those spots. There we go. Alright, we're going to start at the top of our yarn person. We're going to poke right through the center of that. Arms, we're going to fold them in half and find the center. Poke right through the center. Through the spool and through the legs. Then you're going to come all the way back up. So through the legs again. Through the body. Through the arm. Through the head. And through the hat. It doesn't matter if you go back through the same hole or if you poke another hole, as long as they're pretty close to the center. Alright, let's press all that. And then we don't have any big gaps. You don't want to pull it too hard or the legs and arms will start to try to pull through those holes also. Maybe we can take our needle off now. We're going to tie a knot. This is going to be our string to hang it on the tree. So I like to leave about 3 inches. You can choose how long you want that to be. Trim over top of your knot. The last finishing touch is we're going to give our yarn person a little bow tie, just sort of finish him off, and then if you want to add some clothes, you can. Alright. You just need a little 6 or 8 inch piece long to make your bow tie. sure your bow is nice and tight. Turn those edges. You can push that head and hat back down. So your yarn person is adorable just like this. If you want to decorate it up, you can wrap some ribbon, or I actually have some leftover rickrack that I'm going to add to mine. Let's see, our green guy here has some ribbon, so you choose, or you don't have to do anything. All right, so let's try this rickrack. So let me find the end of it. All right, I'm going to cut enough to wrap around a few times. I'm going to get my small needle threaded with some matching thread. I have some yellow here. With regular thread, if you lick the end or get it wet and then snip it, it's a little bit more crisp to go through the needle. Knock the end of this so it's ready. I'm going to leave it doubled up. I'm going to knot it twice. And then trim right past my knot. Okay, so I am going to wrap my rickrack around several times. That looks cute. All right, on the back, I'm gonna give me just about a ½ inch or so to fold it over. My needle's ready. Well, if I can get it. I'm going to stitch this in place. I like to stitch it rather than glue it, because as we know, Christmas ornaments are frequently stored in the attic or the garage or somewhere that's not air conditioned or climate controlled, and this thread will hold up for decades, whereas glue will eventually wear out and your precious, adorable little handmade ornament may come undone. All right, and just in case I don't have the start of my rickrack tucked in there well enough, I am going to, instead of starting over, I'm going to pull my needle up here and stitch it down too. All right, let's make a knot. Trim that. Spin it around to the back. Put a little head and hat down again. Now, if you would like to get a Sharpie and add a little face, you can. I like mine just like this. So there is that super cute little yarn person ornament ready to give. We're going to make a yarn person now out of some thicker yarn. However, for this one, instead of tying a knot, we are going to use a thinner yarn to tie off the ends of our braids for our arms and our legs. So on this one, you can see that I used a similar colored, just beige, so that this one's all neutral. For the one I'm about to make for you, I am adding Christmas colors together. So I've got a red and white, twisted, kind of fuzzy plush yarn, and then I'm going to tie him off and accent him with some green, just thin yarn. So we do need a little bit of a different technique for this one. So I don't need to double up or triple up this yarn since it's already got some nice thickness and body. So I only need 3 strands. I am going to cut my legs first, which are 12 inches. So cut this little knot off. I'm going to have 3 strands at 12 inches. And then I just need a couple small pieces of my thinner yarn. I'm going to gather my leg pieces together and just tie a knot. Tie kind of a little tiny square knot to make sure it stays put. We'll come back later and trim those up. So now I'm just going to braid it. Again, I'm going to braid it in my hands. If you want to secure it to something, get you a safety pin, pin this to a pillow, and that's a nice way to hold it steady while you're braiding. We don't need our braid too tight. We want it to stay put, but we don't need to pull it extra tight. I'm going to braid down a little bit closer to the end. That's close enough. Get my other little short piece and just tie a little square knot to hold that together. Okay, trim your leg piece and your little tie as close as you want to. Alright, we'll do the same thing for our arm piece, but we'll cut it a little bit shorter. It's going to be 9 inches, so we'll cut 3 strands at 9 inches and then tie them off and braid them. Gather those 3 strands of yarn and knot them together. And then braid them. Smaller yarn and tie a knot to hold your braid. And then trim those ends as close as you want them. We've got our arms, our legs, we've got our spool for the body, we've got our bead for the head, we need a hat. I'm going to give my little guy a red hat. Got a little scrap of felt here. You can use your spool to trim around, or you can use a quarter. That makes a good size. We'll try with my spool this time. So you can draw if you want to, or just hold it and trim around it. It does not need to be perfect. If you want to smooth anything out, you can. Don't fiddle with it too much. It does not need to be perfect. That doesn't have any sharp places. I'm going to leave it alone. All right, now we're going to sew through all of the layers to hold them together. So it would be very difficult with a thick yarn, so I'm doing it with my contrasting thinner yarn. So I just need a piece long enough to go all the way through and back again. I'm going to get my thicker needle out. And if you can wet or lick the end of your yarn, and then sort of press it flat with your fingers, sometimes it'll go through that middle a little bit easier. There we go. Alright, I'm going to start at the top of my person and work my way down. So I'm going to go through this hat right in the center. Pull that yarn through. Leave yourself enough to tie the top 4 things on the tree. Through the head. I want to get my arms, find the center and put through that. Through the body, the wooden spool, and through the legs. And then you're going to turn around and go right back up. So through the legs to hold everything together, through the body, through the arms, through the wooden bead for the head, and back through the hat. And it does not matter if you go through the same hole or if you make another hole. I do try not to go through my skinny yarn again. Sometimes that makes a little knot. Alright, we're done with our needle. Let's press all that down. We don't want it too tight because we don't want the arms and legs to start trying to go through the wooden pieces as well. But we want them all snuggled up close together. So cute! Alright, you're going to tie a knot. I like to leave about 3 inches or so there's room for it to hang on the tree, but you're going to choose how long you want that to be, tie a knot, and then trim it. We're going to give our yarn person a little bow tie to finish off the neck area. Alright, when you've got it the size you like, you've got it tight enough, it's going to stay put on those edges. So much to work with that time. Alright, and then press that all back together. So there's our super cute little yarn person. Now I want this one to have a little bit more than just the wooden spool here. So I've got some red ribbon or some green ribbon. I'm going to give green a little more contrast. Alright, so I just need a piece that's long enough to go all the way around and fold in. Cut about 5 inches or so. Before I get wrapping it around, I'm going to go ahead and get my needle ready to sew this shut. Same trick here, if you lick the end of it and then also snip it, makes it a little bit more crisp on the end and it'll go through the needle just a little bit easier. Leave my thread doubled up. I'm going to knot the end and trim it so it's ready to sew. Alright, I'm going to get my little yarn buddy, wrap my ribbon around, give myself a little bit extra so I can fold the edge under. I don't have a raw edge here. Fold it. Layer it over. There we go. And then I'm just going to stitch these two together. I like to stitch them instead of gluing them because this little yarn person will last for decades. It can get stored in the attic or in the garage. The yarn will stay put. Glue sometimes will give out after a few years. So I always prefer to sew rather than glue if I can. Knot the end a couple times. If you want to get a marker and add a little face, you sure can. I'm going to leave mine exactly like this. So cute. He's ready to hang on the tree or to gift. I hope you have enjoyed making your yarn ornament as much as I have enjoyed it. Please check out my other videos for more DIY projects, how-tos, and all kinds of fun stuff. Or for those times when you just don't have time to DIY, visit my shop. I've got lots of holiday items, home decor, kitchen linens, and more. You can find me online everywhere at Belle by Jessi. The extra E is on the Belle, not on the Jessi.